Hey, what's up, Scott? Perfect. Let some people get in here, and then we'll get after it. Give a few people a little bit more of a chance here to jump in. Getting some numbers now, some people coming in. Hey, Colin, welcome, brother. What's up, J-Boy? OG Slick Nasty last week was fire. It was very fire. Every week can be fire for us if we find those actionable setups that I've been talking about. All right, guys, we're about 2 minutes past 9 here on the East Coast. So let's go ahead and let's jump into it. For those of you that are new, I know some people are new probably on the stream. One of the things that we'd like to do is kind of talk about the market in general, what we have coming this week as far as earnings, economic events, and then some setups that are kind of happening. And then at the end, what I like to do is kind of open it up for chart requests from you guys. It kind of helps me to find some trades that maybe I wouldn't have seen. So if you guys have things on your radar, we can take a look at those and see what they are, and see if that if they make sense, and if we can play them. So first things first, guys. One of the things I want to talk about is Apple, right? So we had Apple's earnings last week, and I kind of talked in last Sunday's scan about the fact that I thought that the real market mover was going to be Apple. It wasn't really going to be the rate hike decision that was coming during the past week. I thought that the big institutional money was going to be waiting on the sidelines, waiting for Apple to make its move. Apple has made its move, and we've closed the weekly candle very, very strong here. So this is the weekly. This is the weekly chart on Apple. This is what we have on the weekly so far. So we are flirting with all-time highs on Apple. We're less than $10 away from all-time highs. It's not going to take us. We're about a 4 or 5% move away from getting that all-time high. And the thing that's interesting to me on Apple here is that we are coming up. We did see on the weekly candle, at least, the last 2 times we came up into this area, this 174 area. The last few times we had came up into this area, we got a nice rejection from this area. We sold back down pretty hard. Like, sellers stepped in an aggressive way on the weekly candle back on the week of August 19th, April 1st of last year, and then April 8th of last year, those 2 weeks. In fact, they really stepped in as well up here, when we came up here and made all-time highs back in January 7th, and then the first week of January. Sellers stepped in a big way. So I think this next weekly candle is going to be pretty telling on Apple. This is going to be a huge week for Apple because I think this is the week where we potentially could get, we could get new all-time highs on Apple. I think if we see a move over 175 on Apple, I think that's going to be accretive for a move up to probably around the 178.50 area, and then 178.50, I think we get 181. So I'm going to go ahead and mark those levels. I already have some levels here. But what I want to do is mark the 175. I know that's a psych level, and then 178.50. Yeah, 178.50. Really, what I'm doing here, let me turn off my levels. I'm looking at this weekly candle here, like the top of this weekly candle. This was a pretty strong week, right? This was almost an 11% week on Apple back on December 10th of 2021, that week. And so we're pushing all the way up. So what I did here, I just added a level here, guys. And what I want to do too is kind of zoom out on the weekly, and I just want you guys to look at something and see what you think. Someone told me that they thought this was like a big bull flag. I don't really think it's a big bull flag, so to say, but what I could see is that we do have, like, if I take this was a trend line that I had. We can always put that back. But if I look at this, right, like we were trading in a channel on Apple on the weekly, right? Candle closes on the weekly. We could say this is a channel, right? We have one touch, two touch, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and breakout. So this is a technical channel breakout on Apple's weekly. Again, we can't predict the entire moves in the market. If we could, we wouldn't be sitting here. So no clue like where we go, obviously, but price action will lead us, there. I just think that this is a pretty healthy weekly chart based on how the weekly candle shaped up this past week. So again, I'm looking for that 175, then 178.50, and then all-time highs on Apple. And then after all-time highs, I think we'll have some price discovery, up in the 185s, potentially 190s. It's going to be, it's going to depend on what happens with Apple this week. But we'll take a look at that. We'll take a look at overall markets. We also have some things happening this week, CPI, things like that we'll have to be on our heels for. So that's Apple. That's one thing that I wanted to, talk about. Now let's talk about QQQ, because QQQ, the move that QQQ makes is probably going to be pretty dependent on Apple, right? Now, if we look at QQQ's weekly, we're coming back up into this weekly demand zone, which I had been calling for a while, right? I had been calling for this 330 for the past probably month or so. And so far, so good, right? So far, we're looking good on the weekly time frame. And again, I think this is probably where we'll start to see a little bit of rejection here, is about the 330 range. Now, if we look at the daily time frame, we can see, again, pretty strong daily. And, I've been calling for it for a while, but I was like, if we get over this 322 hump, 320, 350, I think we make that move. So you can see here, back on the daily time frame, if we look back, right, back here on the daily, we can see that there was a gap from, what was this, August 19th back to, let's say August 30th, August 26th, we had this gap fill, right? We had to move all the way from 319 all the way up to that 320 area. Well, we filled that gap. And we hit 323.76, right? So we pushed up. So now what I'm looking for is really the 325 level and then 330. And if I show you guys the levels on my daily, this might make your eyes hurt just a little bit. But what you can see here is I've got my levels predefined. So I've got that 321.62 spot as a pretty big spot for me, because that was where we broke down at. We broke down in that before. We held it and we pushed not all-time highs, but we pushed that 330 level that I was looking for. Back here on the daily time frame, if you see it, hopefully you guys can see here, we've got this hammer candle here. We held that level and we pushed to that 330 spot. We lost that level. We fell all the way down, right? Fell all the way down to that 253 spot. So now what I'm looking for, right, is that same thing. We broke the 321.60 spot. Want to see if we can hold it. We did get one daily hold over it, and then we lost it. But if we get another daily hold, I think we do make that push up towards that 326.64. Then I'm looking for the 331 level. And I think if we get that 331 spot, this is where it's going to be pretty big, right? Because I think if we break that on the daily, let's go out to the weekly here. It's a little bit easier to look at. You guys can see here, and I'll take off. Actually, we'll leave the lines on, leave the levels on. But you can see here, right, if we break out over that 331 spot, we've got a lot of room up on the weekly time frame, at least up here to the 355 area. And that's where I think that if this move happens, Apple's going to find that price discovery above that 181 all-time high level. And that's where I think we could see Apple hit that 180, 185, 190 spot. It's all going to depend on what happens this week, specifically with CPI. So that's what I'm going to be watching when we talk about QQQ. The nice thing about trading in these levels, and again, if you look at the weekly time frame, right, here's the weekly. We've been trading in this same level for, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks in a row. We've been in this same zone, which has been, we always talk about wanting expansion. The one good thing about being in a range for a while is that if you have good levels in that range, it's pretty easy to play in that range, right? So our levels have played out pretty well. We'll just continue to play those levels. We share those every morning in the pre-market huddle, and so that's what we'll be looking at. Yeah, exactly, Keith. Penthouse to the from the poorhouse to the penthouse for sure. That's what we're looking to do. So this is QQQ. That's what I'm watching on QQQ. Let's take a look at SPY. Let me turn these levels off because my SPY levels are a little bit obnoxious. Just want to show you guys that SPY is looking very similar. The 315 area is going to be huge, right? You can see we got some pretty big wicks on the weekly time frame here. They're buying the dip on the weekly, and they're holding us kind of right up here at this 315 area. We're kind of getting held hostage on SPY. I think if we can break over kind of this high maybe of last week, which is at 417.62. If we get 418, I think 420 comes next on SPY logically. Over 420, I think I'd be looking for the 425 spot. And then over 425, we obviously have room all the way up to 445 if we push on the daily. But again, there's a lot of things happening, and I still don't think we've seen the full effect of what the Fed's doing and what the Fed's going to continue to do moving forward. So that's kind of my viewpoint here on SPY on the weekly, SPY on the daily. But you can see kind of where we're at in the chart. We've taken our lumps, right? I mean, last year we were down, 25% or so in 2022. Here's the COVID drop. Here's the drop all the way in 2022, right? We started to rebound here, and then we ended right about here, right? So here's where we ended 2022. Here's where we started. We had a pretty healthy correction, a 25% correction. I'm not saying that that's enough of a correction. I'm not saying that it's not enough of a correction. I have no idea. I'm just saying that for everything that we've gone through, the market did take like a 25% beating from that all-time high on SPY. So don't get caught being a perma bear or a perma bull. It's hard to tell what can happen, and I hate being in the prediction business, which is why I kind of let price action dictate what I do. The macroeconomic events don't really concern me too much because as a day trader, I'm looking to trade 10 and 15 minute candles. I don't really have to be too concerned with the macro environments. So that's what I'm kind of looking at on SPY. Again, we've kind of been in this range, right, on the weekly time frame. We've had a little bit more range on SPY than we've had on QQQ, on tech, but we've played these levels all the way from 381 all the way up to 416. We played them pretty well in the room, and obviously here's all my levels that I have for you guys. Everything from 370 up to 424. So we've got tons of levels that we like to play there. The levels play really, really well. And so that's kind of, in fact, yeah, here's the Friday view, right? Pop up, pull back. As soon as we get that 15-minute candle close over our key level and over the downtrend, we move all the way up to, our next key level at 313.34. So these are the types of levels that we give out in the room. Every morning, I give these levels out to you guys so you have them. And so that's it's kind of what we do in the room and what we try and teach in Moneyline. So now that we've kind of gotten some of these big names out of the way, let me turn off my drawings here. I want to talk about some individual names that are setting up, some names that you might have seen me post on Twitter, names that I think can be a pretty good opportunity for us to trade. First one here being let's extend this out, right? First one here being CRM. Okay, so Salesforce. This is a tech company. Basically, if you guys aren't familiar with Salesforce, they're a CRM tool that sales companies often use in their sales department. That basically house all of their customer data, customer relationship management system. Basically, I don't know if that acronym's right or not, but that's what companies use it for. It's a vital tool to a lot of different companies from their sales department perspective. Great company all around, but what's happening right now on CRM on the daily is that we're getting something that we like to call price consolidation, or the inside joke is that it's price compaction, right? We're getting pretty compacted on the daily time frame. And what do I mean by compaction or consolidation? It just means that if you zoom out on the chart, we've typically had some pretty nice range, but now all of a sudden we're kind of stuck in a range, right? So if you look at CRM, we're essentially stuck in a $10 range, right? Here are my levels I have. But basically, right, we're stuck between 190.56 and really 200, right? We'll just call it 200 because the high of this range is 212 cents. So 190 to 200, we got $10 worth of range. Once we see a breakout either down or up, I think this is going to be a beautiful trade to be had because, again, going out on the weekly time frame, if you look at the weekly, this name's setting up. We've got 2 weekly candles here with massive wicks off of the 190.56 level that I have. Okay, so I think if we break out of this 200, I think we make a move back up into the 220 spot on CRM. I think it's just a natural move up, right? Because if you look at the weekly time frame, the first level I think we get to is probably, let's say somewhere around in here, right around the 212, and then over 212, I think we make that push up to 220. So that's what I'd be looking at on CRM. It's a daily looks good, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 touches. Now we're ready to break out. This is a channel, and this is a channel breakout that we will play. My alerts are set. You guys can see I've got an alert here set at 199.85. We could get this breakout tomorrow. I don't know when it's going to come, but I've got an alert set at 199.85 on Webull. I've also got an alert set, which I'm going to move down I'll just set it at 193 because if we break that 192.74 spot, I think we could see it move down to 190.56. Then below that, obviously, we've got room down in the 180s. So CRM is setting up really, really well. Weekly, admittedly, does look a little bit more bullish than the daily. And if we break that 200 spot, I think 212 comes first and then 220 comes next. So CRM is a name that I will be watching. It's a name that I like and something that, I talk a lot about daily setups. These are actionable setups for me. A break of 190 or a break of 200 is an actionable setup for me to take an entry either long or short. Next name I want to talk about is DDOG. Okay, Datadog. This is another company in this kind of software tech space that is very well known. And if CRM breaks out, this is a name that you guys can see on the weekly time frame. We have held this 60 to 90 spot for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, basically 18 weeks, right? We've kind of held this area. So for about 5 months, CRM has held 60 to 90. Now, if we break 60 to 90, that's where I think that we get a move, probably down, first move, down and around to like the $50 level, right? I'd be looking for like 50 psych level, 53, 50 psych level, and then below that 48. But, we are bouncing off here. So this is something to keep in mind. Now, if we put drawings on here, one thing that we could look at, let's do trend line. One thing that we could potentially see happening here on CRM, right, could this be considered a weekly breakout? Right? Now, you guys know how I like to draw my levels if you're in money line. You guys know that I like to draw them on the candle bodies themselves. So here's a candle body, candle body, candle body, candle body, and then boom, weekly breakout. So this could be a weekly breakout. If we go to the daily and take a same picture, look at this. It's a little bit messier, right? Because we did have some days where we gapped up, gapped down. But overall, it does look like this could be a breakout because we are getting some increased volume here. We got the breakout, so we just need to see if we get some continuation because we've had this before where we get a daily breakout and then we get slammed back down. Okay, so CRM is a name that I will be watching for a potential move. Now, Snowflake is a name that I want to show you guys just because not that there's necessarily an actionable setup right now on Snowflake. I do think that if we can break out through this 157.50 spot, we do have a good chance at making our way back up, at least to this gap fill from the daily time frame. September 17th to September 16th, we had a gap fill from 160.55 all the way up to 164.35. So I think we could fill that gap if we break over 160.55. Now, the one thing I'll do is I will set an alert over 160.42. So I'm going to set that. Then what I'm going to do is actually set an alert here at about 157. Let's just create an alert above 157. Now, the reason I'm setting that is because I have a key level at 157.50. I want my broker to tell me, hey, Strat, 157 just hit on snow. You might want to take a look at it because then I don't have to look at it every single, every minute of the day. The reason I want 157 and I want to know when 157.50 breaks is because I think that's where we get that pretty big move up to that 160 spot. And then I think over 160, we make that move all the way up to 164.35. That's what we're watching on Snow. If you look at it, it's like Snow, CRM, DDOG, they're kind of all in that same space. I think if CRM starts to go, DDOG's going to go, Snow's going to go with it. We're going to see a lot of the tech names start to go. Okay, so those are the three tech names that I'm watching. Now let's get into some blue chip names that I like. Meta. This is an interesting one because I feel like the bulk of the conversation this evening has kind of been on bullish names, right? Bullish names setting up. What's happening here on Meta, and if we go to the weekly and take a look, we're kind of trying to break out here on Meta. Basically, what's going on with Meta is that I think if we get over this spot on Meta on the weekly time frame, we've got room to, let's say, 250, and then over 250, I think we've got some pretty sizable room to the upside into the 288 area. But if you look at the daily time frame, what's happening on the daily is that we actually have a post-earnings gap fill to the downside back to that 222 spot. Now, I'm not sure that 222 is going to get filled, but the old saying is that, all gaps do get filled. This is going to be an interesting thing, right? You know, I don't know that we come all the way back down, because if you look to it, what happened on earnings here, we popped up, we came back down, and then we started to round on the daily, and we found a bottom, and then we pushed up from there. Okay, now, does Meta do the same thing? Did we get the gap up? Do we start to come down and round at the bottom, and then do we push up again and push towards that 288 spot? Again, I don't know, but just something that I want to, you know, keep on watch, because I think if we do break some levels, we could see some nice downside moves. I mean, you see what happened here on Meta's daily, right? So like on Meta's daily, you know, when we lost the daily candle closes here, let me just show you guys what I'm talking about here, right? We had this line here, and let me color this a different color for you guys. Let's put it like pink, and let's make it big, because I want to show you an example of how I maybe would play this Meta breakdown on the daily. Here, we had a daily close that held this 183.09 level, right? Let's just call it 183. We held 183. We held 183. We held 183. We tried to push up. We came down. When we lost 183, we saw a move all the way down to 177.71. Okay? Similarly here, if we look at this gap up, right? What happened here, right? Well, we held 238.67. We held it 1 day, 2 day, 3 day, 4 day, right? We pushed up, and then when we lost 238.55, we made a move all the way down to 232.80, right? So this is something that, like, I just want you guys to understand how this works. You know, the one thing that I look for as a trader, I look for that momentum, right? And you guys hear me say it all the time, momentum up or momentum down, it really doesn't matter to me. This is what I'm looking for. So the same way that you could have played this daily setup, using that 183 as a risk, a break of 183, we should see a bigger move down, at least to this day's low, right? At least to that 180 spot, a $3 move on the underline. When you're playing weekly options, that's a pretty nice move on your premiums. Here, all right, 238.67 level, when we broke that, we actually got a move down here all the way down to 232. So we got a $6 move on the premiums on that day, on May 3rd, right, on Wednesday. So that's a pretty sizable, you know, that's an actionable setup for me when I see that. Now I missed this, but this is something that you can play. Now Meta did start to see some bids come in at the end of the day. If you look here, right, we did start to see some bids come in and push us higher. But ultimately on the daily time frame, I want to see, do we fill this gap, or do we do what we did back in back in February, and do we start to curl off this and push up, right? Now, May was a pretty down month, February was a pretty down month for Meta, and then we curled and made our push back up. Does May do the same thing? Do we pull in May, and then do we push back up in June and July? I'm not sure. We'll have to see what happens here, but just wanted to put the Meta chart out here for you guys, to let you know kind of what I'm looking at. But you can see here, right, that if we break on the daily time frame, right, my level here, let's put a horizontal line, but right here, right, if we break this spot to the upside, we've got room all the way up on Meta to at least this next spot up here, right? So 300 is the next logical spot that I would look for on Meta. So that's kind of what I'm looking at on Meta. Those are the levels that I'll be watching. Again, the break of that daily spot up top, that's kind of what I'll be watching as well, that 248.35. If we do get back up there, I think that's where we start to see and play some of those levels that we had played all the way back. We can find levels in here, but this is basically going all the way back to February of 2022 when we had that nasty drop on Meta where we fell all the way down to 185 from that from that 330 area, 328 area. So that's what I'll be watching on Meta. That's a tech name that I like. I kind of like the daily setup, so I want to see what happens here. And again, you hear me say it all the time, but daily setups are where people make their bread and butter. You can see the falling wedge on the daily after the earnings, and then we pushed all the way up to 244, and this is, when we were sitting at 177. So daily time frame, really, really nice setup. In fact, it did it down here as well. Wedged on the daily, broke out. So again, This just shows that price consolidation and price compaction often leads to expansion, and that's what that's kind of been the name of the game that we've been playing kind of all month long. Now I want to shift the focus, and I want to look at some bank stocks. I want to talk about PNC Financial first. PNC is a name that is teetering on the edge of death, in my opinion, based on daily timeframes, and we saw a move down, and they bought the dip. They've done this with Charles Schwab as well, and then they took us right back down to this level. So what I want to do is zoom out on the weekly and show you guys why I think this level is super important. And the weekly actually closed at 116.18, right? You can see, 116.18 is where the weekly closed. My level is 116.09. It's very close. Basically, we can say that it closed right on this level. But if you guys look back at the chart, you'll see why this is such a huge pivot spot, right? We lost this level on a weekly time frame. We tried to regain this level. We fell back down. We rejected this level. We tried to push up. We fell down from this level. We rejected it. We pushed over. We held this level, and we pushed from this level all the way up to 216 over time. When we were at 70, we pushed all the way back up to this level. So this is why I think this 116.18 is a huge spot, and I think if we lose this on the weekly time frame, we could see a move back down to the 105.97 spot. If we lose 105.97 going to the daily time frame, then I think we could see some nice moves down. But this is kind of the level that I like to look at on PNC. I think PNC is one that could be another regional bank that could get hit pretty hard based on things that are going on in the regional banking sector. And so that's what I'll be watching on PNC. Now, the other ones that I'm watching that we played actually last week, Charles Schwab, if we look at the weekly time frame, we can see the weekly, they bought right around that 45 area again. We hit all the way down to 45.65. This time, last time on the week of March 17th, they took us all the way down to 45 even. They bought it, took us back up to that 58 spot. So, but this is kind of looking like a, more or less like a weekly bear flag, if you ask me. It's just kind of, we've just got this like downward channel that we're kind of in on the weekly time frame. Maybe not a bear flag, but just kind of like a weekly channel, kind of a weekly channel play that we're in here. And we're just kind of pinned in this channel after that big sell. So SCHW is a huge name, and I think ultimately if we lose that 45, which is a massive spot on SCHW, especially if you look at the weekly, you can see here, weekly hold. We fell through it once, popped back up, rejected it, fell all the way down to 26, came back up, tried to get 45. We got a high here of 44.33, came back down, came back up, all the way up, and then we held 45, and then from 45, obviously, we pushed up to that 51 spot, pushed up to 58, came back down to 51, pushed all the way to 94.88. So this is a huge spot on SCHW and a spot that I'll be watching. I've got my price alerts set, so this is a name that I like as well. The last name I'll talk about from the banking sector is PPBI. Actually, two more names in the banking sector, but PPBI, this is a name that it's not looking good on the weekly time frame. You can see the increased volume on PPBI. We are now under that 2014 level, and we closed the week at 1912. The next spot down that I have is 1455. As you guys can see here on the weekly, we were in this range on the weekly, and then we broke out, and then we pushed to 48.89. So now we close back under, and we're within this range. So naturally, I'd like to see a move back down to the 1415 before we decide if we want to break through that or if we want to push back up and head back north. But this is a name that I'm watching on the weekly. The daily, you guys can see, we saw accelerated selling on the daily once we broke down through this level. I didn't catch this move, but when we typically see 500,000 shares traded on this name every single day, when we break through that daily level, we saw 1.6 million shares traded. So it got about 3 times the volume on that day. The very next day, we had about 1.4 million shares traded. Then we had about 1.4 million again on the very next day. On Friday, we had about 1.1 million shares traded, and it actually pushed up a little bit higher after maybe finding a local bottom at 1766. But PPBI is a Pacific Premier Bank Corp. It is a California-based bank. It is on my list of ones that could hit the gutter and could go back to about zero. Based on what FRC did and some of these other banks that are, that are out there that are failing. Last bank that I want to talk about is UBSI. United Bank shares. This is a huge West Virginia powerhouse bank that they've acquired about 30 billion. Maybe they might be at about 50 billion in assets now. They've been acquiring banks in West Virginia, South Carolina, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, and even down into Florida, I believe. So an East Coast regional bank that is founded and headquartered in the West Virginia state. But this is a chart that is teetering again on the edge of death, it seems, or at least a 50% drawdown. Because I think if we get a weekly candle close under this 30 level, I think we see a move all the way down to the 25.78 level. And if we get that move down under 25.78, I think we make that move back down to $19 a share based on what we've kind of seen looking back at the chart playing around these levels. Now, if we look at the daily time frame, you guys can see why I like this level so much, right? Because we pushed up to this level, gapped up on this level, came back down, tried to hold it. We rejected it once, but then pushed back up, all the way back up, came down, tapped 29.93. From there, we hit 35, right? So we got a $5 move up there, a little bit less than 20% move there in just a few days there. So that was a nice little run that went on. Now we're coming right back down to it. We did gap down, but again, just like PPBI, this could have found a local low here at 28.29 is where we wicked down to. So let's see if what happens tomorrow, and we'll watch that $30 level for a potential move down to the 25.78 to the $19 range here. A lot of commercial real estate loans on these books, and if commercial real estate is the deal breaker that's kind of kicking things right now, this could be a name that we could watch for potential downside moves. So we are at about 30 minutes in. At about the 30-minute mark is where I like to kind of bring you guys in to see if you have any chart requests that you want me to look at for you. So with that being said, I'll open it up to comments in the Discord or here on the YouTube Live to see if there's any chart requests that you guys want to take a look at. While we're doing that, I think Conrad does have a chart request of BABA. So let's take a look at BABA without drawings just to see. I like to look at them without drawings first to see if I see anything setting up on BABA. And so yeah, let's take a look at this and see what we have for 2023. So interestingly, BABA here, this could be a double bottom kind of at the $80 level, right? 80 hold on the daily. Under 80 on BABA, I think we get a pretty nice move down and probably about the $63 level. This is a play here. If we look at the weekly, yeah, here we go. This chart looks a little bit better. So the weekly time frame, right? Like if we put a level here, I already have a level at 80. So there you go. That's a level that I have, right, is 80. I think if we break down through 80, we get a pretty nice move back down into like the 70 range, or down here into like the $63 range, like for a bigger move down. But I think first move down is probably down and around here around that 75 level, and then below that I think we see probably that $71 level on BABA if we break 80. So what I'm going to do is actually, do I have a price alert set? Yeah, I've got a price alert set at 80.58 on BABA. So what that means is that under 80.58, Weeble's going to tell me that BABA's under 80.58, and I should take a look at it because we could be breaking down through 80. So BABA, I like BABA. What is BABA's gotten smacked. 319 all the way down to 80s now. So yeah, that's what I like about BABA. If we lose 80, I think we got a nice move down on BABA. If we hold here, I think we could see, we could push all the way back up to that 103 spot on BABA. Simon, you can ask in public chat if you're not a premium member on the Discord, or you can ask in Wall Street if you are a premium member. Sunil, I'll get the CRM levels over 200 for us. I'll probably have those in the pre-market huddle tomorrow morning at 9:15, because I imagine that'll be one that we might play. AMD and Tesla. Okay, let's look at AMD first. AMD, beautiful weekly here, 2 weeks in a row. We've kind of held this spot on the weekly time frame. Actually, if we look at the weekly, we could be getting not as clean of a trend as I wanted to see there, but really good. Let's see what the daily looks like here. Daily looks good actually, right? So daily looks good. Like we could potentially, this is a breakout spot on the daily, right? So here's the daily trend. Let's make this line just a little bit thicker. Let's color it purple. I'll take this guy off because we don't need that anymore. But you guys see price consolidation leads to expansion there. So again, this is a daily time frame, but like rejected, rejected, sitting at that level, right? So we break out over this level. I think AMD can make a nice move back up to that 96.08 level. That's what I like about AMD. Let's take a look at Tesla. Turn my levels off. Tesla looks great on the daily. Looks like we are going to, potentially make a move back up to that 178.70 level. I could see a scenario where Tesla actually gaps up in the morning based on how well it closed on Friday, how well it performed. If we go back and look at Friday, actually, this is a name that I really wish I would have taken. We talked about it in the Discord a lot, but these are the types of levels that you guys will get when you come into Moneyline. If you guys aren't a part of Moneyline, this is we talked about this, but Tesla, I love the 15-minute chart. I love making levels on the 15-minute. I teach how to do levels on the 15-minute, and this is why I like it, right? So what happens here is we break out over our 15-minute level, we consolidate, we flag, and I told everyone in the room, right, we're starting to flag here on Tesla's 15. There's the 15-minute flag, and then we break out and we hit the next level at 167.69. What happens when we get that level? We never get a 15-minute candle close under 167.69, which was the key level that we had on Friday that we talked about. And this is the same level that we've been playing for 6 months now. Back when Tesla was at 200 and we shorted it all the way down to 100, these are the same levels, right? Because like you guys always hear me say, the buyers and sellers that reacted in the past are going to react the same way in the future at around those same levels. The chart is nothing but psychology of buyers and sellers, and humans are creatures of habit. And so people that want to buy Tesla at that are under 170, I want to buy it, when it's at 167, 69 area, like that's where I want to buy it. Algos are set to do that, everything's set to do that. So breaking out over that key level, we come back down, we hold this level, and then we push up to the next level. Now we did see some consolidation. We did finally get like one little push up to that key level, but 170.94. And in the after hour session, we closed at, let's say, 170, right? 169.99. We closed the day at 170.06. So you guys see my levels here. I think if we can break out over 170.94, we make a move up to 175.23. And then over that, we really get that 180 level or that 179.39 level on Tesla. But this is how the 15-minute levels can help you guys in your trading. And if if we look and see the 5-minute, we can see how the 5-minute traded as well. Right? So this is where the 5-minute comes in handy, okay? Tesla, strong out of the gate, break out over a key level, hold that level in the 5-minute, we push all the way up, right? Hold this level 165.31 and push all the way up to 166.76, right? This was probably a 40 or 50% move on premiums just on this one candle right here, just waiting for one candle coming all the way to the top. Then we consolidate, then we push up to our next level, right? We get a rejection there, then we hold this level. We hold, we push, come back down, we hold. 5 minutes, never closed under 167.69, and then we broke out of this. Now this is a little bit harder to trade because what I'd say is we're in consolidation here. This is consolidation for a while, but what happens as soon as we get out of consolidation, right? Consolidate, break out, retest the consolidation line right here on this candle. I'll zoom in and show you guys. Right? Yeah. Oops, sorry. There we go. Consolidate, break out, come back, test it, hold it, go up, test it one more time, go up, and then we pushed all the way up to 170, right? So 168.81 all the way to 170.44, And then ultimately did get a big wick all the way up here to 170.79 towards the end of the day. But that's kind of how the 5 minute, how you can play the 5 minute and what that kind of looks like when you break that out. You know, there's the 15. You can see the consolidation on the 15 and then the breakout. So that's Tesla. Riot inside week one to watch. Yes, Riot and Mara are both ones that I'm watching. WAL, we can look at WAL, but to be honest, not one that I'm actively trading just because there's been so many halt ups and halt downs. FRC kind of did something similar, right? Like they halted up, halted down. They were all over the place. I don't know that WAL is one that I will trade. I mean, we can look at it on the weekly time frame, and I can give you my thoughts on it. Still pretty weak. The daily time frame, this is the one that I think you want to see over 41 for a move back up on WAL. And if we can't get over that $30 spot on WAL, I think we fall back down. That's kind of my thoughts on WAL. Silver. We can look at SLV. Yeah, silver's kind of the same thing with gold. I talked about gold a lot in the Discord. We talked about it, but as banks start to sell and as people get a little bit worried about traditional assets, and what I say traditional is like cash, equities, things like that. People are gonna move. When the dollar, the fear of the dollar kind of hits people. What I've seen is that people run to silver, run to gold, alternative investments, even digital assets. I think if the dollar continues to stay weak and we see banking issues, we could see some moves on Bitcoin as well. So silver very similar to GLD. If you look at GLD, GLD is pretty strong. Right, so GLD is actually holding that 186.06 breakout level, and I think I mentioned that if we did that a few Sunday scans ago, this is a pretty strong case for us to maybe hit all-time highs on GLD, right? Because that 186 spot's huge. Reject, got over it, pushed all-time highs, rejected it, fell back down. Now we're up here, and I think we can maybe push 200 on GLD. Simon, I like to draw my trend lines on the top of the bodies instead of the wicks because that's where the buyers and sellers actually took us to from a control standpoint. That's where they opened and closed that candle within that time frame versus where did they take it to. It's just kind of how I've always done it, and how I prefer to do it. I've seen people do it multiple ways. Can we look at Google and Microsoft? Yes, we can. Let's look at Google and Microsoft, and then we will call it an evening. So with Google here, guys, on the weekly time frame, we are in what I'd say is overhead supply. If we do break out, which I thought we were going to do back on the week of April 14th, I think we get that move back to that 167 spot. Now, if we look at the daily time frame, we can see here, right, that if I pull this guy down, let's keep it there, and let's just drag. Let's just drag this that way. There we go. You can see, right? Zone, broke out, but then we failed, right? We broke out and then we gapped down on the daily. Want to see a breakout over that zone, but I've got my level at 106.60. If we break out over 106.60, I think we make that move back up, and you can see where my price alert is set here at 109.55 because over this spot, I think we make a move back to 112 relatively quickly, and it should be a pretty nice breakout play on Google. Now, if we look at Microsoft, right, Microsoft had a pretty nice breakout on the daily. This is Microsoft starting to get a little overextended, is what I'd say. But if you look at the weekly time frame, right, this is the same area that we came to before, right? Same consolidation zone. So if I draw a box here, something like this, right? Like something like that. Supply zone, supply zone. If I look at the daily now, you can see supply zone. It's pretty accurate, right? Looks very similar because it's almost the exact same thing that we had back here on March 28th, 29th, 30th of 2022. Now, if we get over this zone, that's where I think we make that move up into the 340 range, and I'll go ahead and put a level up here on the daily time frame. Kind of looking for a move up there to that 339.20, 340 spot on larger time frames. Obviously, there will be some levels in here that we can play, but I think that's the next big pivot spot on Microsoft. But we are starting to get a little overextended because we did open up the year on Microsoft down here and around the low of the year is 218. We're already up almost $100 on Microsoft. So just something to say about Microsoft. And then Amazon, last one, we'll take a look at Amazon. Amazon, just a, nice clear trend on Amazon here. All right, we can just say here we're getting a nice little trend up. I don't want to say that I have anything, so to say, like I don't have a trend line this way. It's not like we have a true trend line. But Amazon, I think if we break this 108.52 spot, break 108.52, and then if we clear this spot here, right, the high of the candle on April 27th, which is 110.86, I think we get a nice move up to the 114 spot, right? So I'm gonna go ahead and put a level here at 114. Oops, wrong one. Sorry, I meant to click horizontal line. Now, the reason I'm putting it the line here on this candle body versus down here is because we've got candle body, candle body, candle body, candle body, and then a wick, right? So basically what I'm looking for here is a breakout over 108.52, and I'm going to go ahead and set an alert at 108.30 for a price above that, and then that'll tell me that the 108.52 level is coming up on the daily time frame, and then I can push up from that to potentially 110, 111, and then above 111, we've got 114 coming next. So that's kind of what I'm looking at on Amazon. So hopefully that helped you guys. What up, Tom? Tom said Bitcoin is selling. Here's the daily on Bitcoin. Yeah, 15-minute. Wow, what a sell. That is a big sell on Bitcoin on the 5. Yeah, interesting. We'll have to see if that recovers overnight, but daily time frame on Bitcoin, I don't know that I see, maybe a little bit of consolidation here on the daily time frame. Could be getting a little tight there on the daily. We could see something here happen. Have to see what happens on the weekly time frame. Obviously it is getting a little tighter on the weekly as well. Breaking down out of that now on the weekly, but yeah, we'll see what happens here. But yeah, that's kind of what I got for you guys this week. Coming up, we talked about some tech names, we talked about some software, we talked about some banks, talked about the indexes. As always, we are going to have the earnings plays this week. We have some earnings flush plays that we could potentially play. Let me pull those up for you real quick just so you can see. Here we go. Oops, let me make this a little bit bigger. Can you guys see this now? There we go. Oops. All right, so what I'll be watching, I don't know that we're gonna have anything tomorrow as far as a flush play because these names in the morning I don't like too much. But what we do have tomorrow after close is gonna be PayPal, Palantir, and Lucid. Those will be like 3 names that I will be watching. Tuesday at Market Open, we do have Fisker. That'll be a good one. And then Novavax will be another good one that we could potentially play. After close on Tuesday, we do have Airbnb, Rivian, Oxy could be good, Twilio, TWLO. We have UPST, we have Affirm, we have Win. There's some really good ones Tuesday after close, so Wednesday morning could be really good. Roblox, Wednesday morning. First Citizens Bank, I'll be interested to see what they say on their earnings call. Disney, after close on Wednesday. Robinhood, that could provide something. Beyond Meat could provide something for us as well. And then after close on Thursday, there was one that I liked. I thought, maybe not. I thought there was one that I liked on here. No, none that I really like right now. I'll have to look and see what happens on a Thursday after close. But I think the big day for us will probably be Tuesday after close. Wednesday morning should provide some good opportunities for some potential flushes. And then after close, obviously we have Disney, which will be a big one that I'm watching. Speaking of Disney real quick, I do want to show you guys the Disney chart on the daily. Okay, and what I'm doing is I've got my price alert set at 102.60 because I think a move over 102.60 here really sends us on Disney. We've got a potential breakout here on the daily. You guys see we have a flat top resistance. You know, really I could maybe move this up just a little bit. The reason I haven't is because we did hold this level, so I want to see how we react at the 108. 102.09 and then 102.60 level. I think if we break this 102.60, we get a move back up into that 108 range on Disney. So this is a flat top resistance play that I'll be watching. We also are starting to get a little bit of consolidation up. So this could be one where we see, we see some consolidation, flat top resistance, consolidation, right? Range expansion, consolidation leads to range expansion again, whether it's to the upside or we break this to the downside and fall back down to 91. Who knows? But we'll just play price action and see what happens. That's all I got for you guys. Again, we talked about some tech names. We talked about earnings. We talked about SPY, QQQ. We talked about Apple. Talked about Meta. Then we talked about some software companies. Then we went in and talked about some banking companies. We talked about some of the earnings that are coming up this week that we could potentially flush. So let's continue to have a great week, guys, going into the second week of May. If you guys aren't in Moneyline, hopefully you guys show up with us. We live trade every single day. Last week was absolute fire. I think we'll do the exact same thing this week. So for those of you that are on here on the live stream, I appreciate everyone that's been on here asking questions, engaging. If you guys have any setups that you like, feel free to drop them in the Discord. A lot of people have different thoughts and opinions. They see different things. So kind of use the room, use the community as a springboard for new ideas or maybe looking for some feedback on your charting. Feel free to drop it in the room, or you can drop it on my Twitter, and I'll try and help out as well. But yeah, the last thing I'll say is that news trading is starting to heat back up, which is awesome because you can make hundreds of percentage points very, very quickly. Make sure you guys, if you're not in the Discord, sign up for alerts from fast stock market news and learn how to trade those news trades, because those things can be life-changing trades that you can make. Wednesday of last week, we caught Meta for 430%, I think. Thursday of last week, I wasn't able to catch because I was at the vet, but it was AMD was like 1,500%. Is what you could have caught intraday. And then Friday we caught Fisker on the electric vehicle news for about 120% as well. So it does sound like news trading is starting to heat back up, and that cycle might rotate back, because for a while, if you guys remember in Q4, news trading was a huge part of the spaces that we were doing, that I was in. That was kind of the one thing that I kept doing, was like news trading. I was the guy that was trading the news there. And then it kind of dried out in Q1 of this year, but I think it might be coming back. So this could be a theme that, to keep on watch. I will be watching the headlines as they roll in. You can make a ton of money very, very quickly on news trading. So thank you guys for being on. Appreciate you being here. I will see you guys in pre-market huddle tomorrow with a watch list, with some trade ideas of plays that I think are going to go absolutely crazy tomorrow. We'll also talk about some setups on the daily time frame that I see, some potential swing trades that we could take for those of you that do trade full time. We could look at some swing trades too, so you don't have to be in front of the computers all day long, because I think there's a few names that are setting up for some swing trades, and I'll update you guys on those tomorrow morning and tomorrow throughout the day on the swing trading channel. So appreciate you guys. Have a great evening, and I will talk to you guys soon.